Welcome to Combat Zone with Ben the Bane Davis on Stadium.
Folks, welcome to the Combat Zone, our debut episode hosted by yours truly, Ben the Bane Davis. Now, this is a very eclectic series of segments that we have for you, accompanied with interviews with top combat sports professionals, executives, fighters, most importantly. But we're also utilizing a lot of content, both from the regional scene, the major scene, giving you everything and anything from the mixed martial arts, boxing, kickboxing world. If you don't know me, you're about to. Here's my background. I'm a mixed martial arts play-by-play commentator. I've worked with many shows on UFC Fight Pass, on DAZN, but I've gotten in there myself, fighting in BKFC, taking on Anderson Silva's son in boxing. I've also done a little karate combat, which we'll be featuring on this series, and a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but that didn't go well, so we won't talk about it. But either way, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. UFC Fight Night, Gilbert Burns and Michael Morales was just over the weekend, and boy, it was a fantastic one. I'm always wary when we have these UFC Apex cards, right? We're not in the pandemic period anymore. We don't need to use this warehouse in Nevada, but yet we still do to a crazy extreme degree, and I think most fans are burnt out on it. We want the crowds. We want the energy from these arenas, these stadiums around both the states and the world. But I will say, I was pleasantly surprised by Burns and Morales. It seemed like there was good atmosphere there in Vegas, and the fights did not disappoint, right? Let's get into it. The main event, Gilbert Burns and Morales. Burns, former title challenger. He is a staple of the division, has taken on the top dogs, never said no to anyone. Michael Morales, a young up-and-coming kid. And this feels like a matchup we've seen several times this year and last year in the 170-pound division, right? A new guard type fighter taking on the veteran, looking to try and reassert and reestablish himself. And it went about how all of those other fights have gone. Morales steamrolls Gilbert Burns inside the first round. It was not close. It was not competitive. And for Gilbert Burns fans, I'd say, ooh, maybe not the most fun night of all time, right? 4-fight losing streak now for Burns. Morales 18-0. Many of those victories finishes, and he's positioning himself up for a nice top 10 opponent, top 5 next. We'll see. Co-main event had some interesting switches. This is kind of the weirdest thing I think I've seen in the UFC world. Rodolfo Bellato and Craig Jones. This was a light heavyweight, I would say, finish guaranteed type fight. Paul Craig has at times shown some tricky durability. Bellato has been a weird, inconsistent steamroller, right? Sometimes he looks like he's on his way out of fights and then battles back and destroys who's staying in front of him. So I think many thought that this was either going to be a Paul Craig sub easily or Bellato bullying Craig. Unfortunately, we didn't get that at all. We didn't get anything from that fight because what occurred? Rodolfo Bellato releases a statement saying that he contracted herpes and the co-main event had to be moved. I've never seen this before. I don't know if you have, but a fighter revealing that they've contracted such type of an STD that has now, disqualified the possibility of this fight from going out on the card. It struck me by surprise. And the broadcast, Bellato, every individual was talking about rebooking this fight. Let's push it to a different date. Let's get it on the UFC 317 pay-per-view. But, who's to say he doesn't contract another STD, right? Who knows what Rodolfo Bellato's getting up to. I don't know if we would want to try and, put this one back together. Maybe it's just best we leave Rodolfo to his devices. But for Paul Craig, this was a bummer to have it be moved, right? Because he was riding a bit of a losing streak. This was a win or retire from the UFC type moment for him. And the fact that it was robbed is a bummer. It's just tough. And the questions that come into my mind is, how did we not know sooner, right? How are we on fight day, 3 hours into the UFC broadcast, and then we learn Bellato has contracted herpes? Isn't this something that would have come up before? Isn't this something that we would have been aware before? And why delay the announcement? Why delay the announcement that the co-main event is off? It's not like we're going to cure the herpes in one day. It's not like we're going to, fight 1 starts. By fight 9, he's recovered. He's ready to get in there. No, it's not happening. announce it immediately. What a frustrating moment for Craig to have this co-main event dissolve, but probably the weirdest reason. I mean, we've seen Tony Ferguson tripping over cables, blowing his knees out. That's caused fight cancellations. But getting herpes is something I never thought would be a reason that would ruin co-main events. But what we got instead was Sadiq Yusuff and Myron Santos. Now, Yusuff is another staple of that division, right? He's always been at featherweight, has always had pretty entertaining scraps, but he just looked completely outgunned against Myron Santos, right? On a completely different level. And for Santos, it was incredibly impressive. 17-1 now as a pro, and inside the UFC, I mean, he just keeps leveling up, keeps gaining fans, myself included. So very interested to see where Myron Santos goes. There were a lot of other great fights on the card, but before we get into them, a note that I want to make is something about 2025 and undefeated fighters. As you know, this has not been a good year for UFC unbeaten opponents. 21 fighters have lost their undefeated records. Peyton Talbot, Umar Nurmagomedov, Bo Nickel most recently, losing that coveted unblemished record. But on UFC Fight Night, Gilbert Burns and Michael Morales, we had 3 unbeaten fighters who went 3-0. Michael Morales, of course, like we mentioned in the main event, cruising through Burns, maintains his unbeaten record. Park Hyun-sung and Yadir Devale on the prelims battled their opposition, came away unscathed, and retained their unbeaten records. And I like that. I like to see that these undefeated guys are living up to that record, as it would suggest, because one of the big frustrations that fight fans have had this year is UFC is not building stars. UFC is not producing prospects. And I've always maybe had this counter argument that the undefeated stars just haven't been able to live up to the moment. They haven't been able to live up to the moment. Is that on the UFC for maybe matchmaking in the fashion that they do? Potentially. But I don't think it's really fair to blast the UFC for not building stars when the people that they are trying to push are unable to keep that success and momentum rolling. 21 fighters losing their undefeated records. It's maybe difficult to say that that's entirely on the UFC. Maybe a little blame has to go to those formerly unbeaten fan favorites. Either way, I was happy to see that 3 of our undefeated guys were able to maintain those records on this card, which I think is historic. Let's talk about the opener to UFC Fight Night, Gilbert Burns and Michael Morales, the main card opener. Melquizael Costa and Julian Erosa. This was one of those fights where the first round, Costa looked like he was cruising. I mean, he was just tagging Juicy J in every single sequence. Didn't seem like there was any problems he was going to have. And then the second round starts. And you see Julian Erosa and all of his veteran experience begin to emerge in this one, right? His presence inside the octagon became a little bit bigger, a little bit more inflated. He's now pushing Costa up against the cage, having more success in the striking exchanges. And you start to maybe have this seed planted in your mind that, oh, maybe Juicy J is about to pull it off again. Then we get to the third round, and the momentum sort of stops for Erosa. Right? We don't see him continue that same success he had in the second, tagging Costa as much. It's much more evened out. And I'd say in the final minute of that fight, Costa was the one who was really controlling things and gets the decision, I think, as he should. But a very fun fight to kick off tonight's card, or excuse me, Saturday's card, rather. And a bit of a career revival for Melquizael Costa. Melky Costa, who a couple years back wasn't entirely sold on, right? You remember the second round loss to Thiago Moises, the loss to Steve Garcia. I just had some questions. But now this kid's riding a 4-fight win streak with finishes in 2 of those outings, beating Christian Rodriguez, who is a real problem in that division. So I'm bought in. Melky Costa, I might not have been on the train in the beginning, but boy, I am now. Now, when we think about this card, a few other things that stands out when we mention prospects is a guy in Mateus Camilo who had a very, very solid Dana White Contender Series appearance. And in this featured prelim, you could tell that, hey, the UFC, the machine, wants him to succeed. And he runs into gifted Gabe Green. Green, making the return from 2 years away from the cage, has a bad first round. I mean, those first 5 minutes, it was all Camilo wrapping up a couple fantastic submission attempts. Gabe surviving, but I would not say doing anything that's offensively that sound in that fight. And then the second round starts. And again, Camilo is steamrolling, but loses a submission. And Gabe Green turns it around, takes the back, puts his hooks in, and gets his own sub, which is just remarkable to me. A guy in gifted Gabe Green. I watched Gabe Green with the worst game plan of any UFC fighter I've ever seen, just running straight at Brian Battle, getting KO'd instantly. And he somehow now 2 years away has refined himself, become a much more resilient fighter, is able to swim in those submission attempts, and then find his own stoppage over a very hyped up prospect. What a comeback for Gabe Green, and can't wait to see what he does next. Now, today's episode, we got a lot of fun things. We've got some KO compilations. We've got some fighters who unfortunately didn't have the most fun nights that we'll feature. But one of the best things we've got is a sit-down conversation with BKFC heavyweight champion Ben Rothwell, the king of Kenosha. Said a lot. He really wants a fight coming back to Wisconsin. Has some very interesting details about what could be next for him. Will it be a title defense? Will it be something else? Let's see. Let's take it to a conversation with Ben Rothwell. Ladies and gentlemen, what an honor it is to have the BKFC heavyweight champion inside the booth. Ben Rothwell, how are you, sir?
Listen to you, man. You're like a professional now.
When I've got the kingpin inside of the Zoom, I got to give you the best that I have, Ben. Congrats on that victory, dude. When you reflect on it, it's been a couple months. How do you feel about that night in January?
Oh, the night was surreal. I mean, how much can I say it? 17,700 fans. That's bigger than most of the UFC fights that I was in. I mean, obviously, the UFC's had some massive events. But for the BKFC to come in and have that kind of showing, I think, is incredible for how many years that they've, in the short period of time that they've done it. I don't know if Bellator or PFL ever had an event that big. So I think it's a huge marker for where we're at in the growth, the trajectory of the sport. And to get a, 30-second knockout, a clean, eyes wide open, guys knocked out with baby T-Rex arms, as the one guy said, knockout in front of that fans here, everybody on their feet. It was one of the biggest, it's probably one of the best moments of my fighting career. So.
Did you expect it to be that quick? I know you were envisioning the knockout, but 30 seconds in, like you said, is I don't know if that's the fastest in your career, but it certainly was early in round one.
I mean, I go into every fight with anything can happen. Like, I can win this in 10 seconds. I can win this in, if the guy is just brutally tough, I don't want to say, like, I'm prepared to go to a decision, because I'm really not. Like if it's into the fifth round, I'm standing up to the stool in the fifth round. My mentality is, I'm ending you now in the next 2 minutes. Like, that's the way it's got to be. And I kind of carry that mentality from the start. You know what I mean? So I'm really, I really expect it really depends on how brutally tough the guy is. If this is going to go to the second round, third round, fourth round, I'm prepared to keep hitting him. I went through so much where you give a guy your best shot and he keeps looking at you. What's that going to do to your mentality? And that really messes up a lot of guys. They're like, man, I just hit this guy with everything and he keeps coming. And to fix that, I'm like, good, I'm going to hit you again and again and again. Because there is no human being alive that's going to take multiple shots from me. I've proven it to myself. And it only takes one when you hit the right spot.
Absolutely. Now, when you think about the vision of being a champion, because that title shot never came inside the UFC, but now you have that world championship around your waist. Is the reality as good as the vision?
For me, I grew up in a time where, coming from the military camp, it was always said, like, winning the belt was never enough. And so I kind of keep that with me, where it's like, all right, like, let's defend it. Let's fight somebody next. Let's get a big super fight. Like, whatever it is, it's about, what's the next fight? Like, what's the next step? And at my age, it's time's against me. So I'm really, really hoping to get some more fights in this year. The only thing I've had against me since being here, I'm 4-0, but that's taken, all of 3 years to make happen. But the organization is growing at an alarming rate. They're super busy. They have a lot of great things going for them. So I'm very positive. I'm very hopeful that we're going to make some things move this year. And I'm really, really hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to have an announcement really soon for a fight this summer.
I love it. That would be fantastic. A summer showdown for the heavyweight throne and the first defense. Who might it be? Because obviously it was Mark Hunt at the post-fight press
I'm
conference
going to
that
give you a
you.
little secret. I don't think it's going to be for defense.
Oh, oh, interesting. I
Yeah,
want.
I think this is going to be a massive fight, and then I'm told that I will have an opportunity to defend the heavyweight title at the end of the year. So it's a dream for me. I get 3 fights in this year would be the absolute most awesome thing. And for where we're at right now with timing, I couldn't ask for a better setup. You know, fight this summer and a fight at the end of the year. It would really make an awesome 2025.
I love it, man. That does sound like a fun schedule. I want to ask quickly about how the combat sports demographic, views you now versus maybe when you started in BKFC or when you were in the UFC. Do you feel like there's this tangible shift in, your rep within the community?
When I came in, there was like a crowd. They're very committed and hardcore to the BKFC, to bare knuckle fighting. And
Hmm.
I was like the outsider, and they don't know, you know what I mean? Like Platinum Perry was getting a lot of hype, and you could see online comments like kind of jealous of him, or didn't really like what he was doing, that he was bringing, and just could kind of see like they were really like, hey, this is our thing, and
Yeah.
you MMA guys, you UFC guys, you're kind of like the enemy. And I was really trying to be like, no, man, I'm a combat sport guy. Like I watch
Yeah.
everything, I do everything, I represent everything. And I was really trying to get it to him like, I'm here for the BKFC. I'm not here to do one fight and look good and move on. Like I'm here to kind of I'm here to finish out my career. And
Yeah.
through the wins, I think I've been kind of like making that shift happen, where now I kind of feel like I got the MMA crowd that followed me, and this new MMA, the bare knuckle crowd is kind of like, all right, this guy's giving us what we came to watch. So I feel like there's a melding taking place where um an MMA crowd definitely followed me. But what's cool is my hometown, through all my UFC tenure, never really embraced me. I mean, that's just how I felt. Like I
Oh,
got friends in town and people that are obviously fans, but I never felt like the local news, the local entities, the government, nothing. I felt like never gave a was really gonna back me, and that all kind of changed now with the BKFC. I don't know if it's just because a newer a newer government came in and just like a newer crowd or whatever. I don't know what it is, but they, after this title win, the mayor named February 8th as officially Ben Rothwell Day in Kenosha. Presented me with some, came to my grand opening. The Kenosha News writes about me more, and just kind of like moving around town, just crazy. The first couple months after the win, how many people in my own hometown were acting like this is the first time they ever met me, and
wow.
and really getting behind me. That's kind of been going on though. The whole the first couple wins, I kind of got people excited, and the bars began to, like, people, I guess, from I'd be at the fight, but my local friends were like, yeah, dude, the bars are getting busy when you fight. And for the title win, the title fight, I guess all the local bars were packed. Like the
Wow.
old days when people used to do for the UFC back in 2010, people used to get together and really get like watch a UFC, and that those days are gone. Like there's just so many events, nothing. It doesn't have that special factor anymore.
Yeah.
But when I fight, it seems like, yeah, that people are all right. They got that special factor, and everybody tunes in. So that's kind of the cool thing for me, is all these years, kind of, I don't want to see. I felt disrespected, but I kind of
Mhm.
felt like, yeah, my own hometown, I didn't feel like got behind me like they do now.
I love it. And yeah, you're reinventing the watch party, Ben Rothwell. I mean, you're bringing it
Yeah,
back.
yeah. So the bars better be happy.
Let's give you a cup, man. Yeah, you got to get some alcohol percentages. Well, that's the first chunk of our conversation with Ben Rothwell. We got a lot more coming for you. Some more news, some more highlights. We'll all get into it here on the Combat Zone. Folks, welcome back to the Combat Zone. Ben Davis still here, and there's a lot of other moving parts in the world of combat sports, but some would say the baddest man on the planet is a bit allergic to defending that throne. One Johnny Bones Jones has been just committed to staying away from Tom Aspinall for as long as he possibly can, despite numerous reports that the UFC has been trying to play ball. The $30 million price tag that Jones has thrown at them has been met internally, right? The UFC is wanting to make this fight. Tom wants to make the fight. Jon seems to be the stick in the mud. Now he's currently in Thailand filming a Russian version of The Ultimate Fighter. He is jetting around on the back of motorcycles, seemingly having the time of his life. And listen, I don't have any problem with Jon Jones having a good time, enjoying the spoils of his career. The point where I draw the line is holding this heavyweight title hostage. He has been holding it hostage. And within that time frame, Tom Aspinall has become the longest reigning UFC interim champ ever. 536 plus days. He began the reign in November of 2023. And now we are in the middle of 2025 and no unification bout seems to be in sight. There's obviously many people suggesting, oh, the fight's nearly done. It's close to happening. It'll be MSG in November for sure. For sure. But then again, I look online and see Jon Jones in Thailand, clearly not training, clearly doing God knows what. How does that inspire confidence in me that he will return and face Tom Aspinall and we can finally unify these belts and have the division move on? I get people's maybe interest in Jon doing whatever he wants. But the problem that I have is it's sidelining Tom Aspinall. You have a future star for the UFC, someone that is beloved by the fan base, someone that can't get their reign going because they are waiting on somebody else to decide to fight them. I just don't see how that's fair. I don't see how that's something that we can really stomach any longer, right? Jon, it's fine if you want to defend against Stipe and have a legacy fight. All well and good. But you have to fight Tom Aspinall. Yesterday was the best time, right? And if you don't want to, there's one thing you can do. Release the belt. Let it go. Let it go. So that Tom can start his reign, the division can move on, and we can all just put this to bed, right? I get deja vu because with Jon Jones, I feel like we had the same conversation with Francis Ngannou several years back. There was all this speculation, all this hype. I mean, hell, they were facing off at PFL events, and then a matchup never materialized, right? I'm sure I could probably look to several instances where maybe Jon is the reason why a fight isn't happening, and the fact that we're still in big 2025 putting up with it is just a little silly. Talking about silliness, Patchy Mix joining the UFC. That's as serious as it can get. Taking on Mario Bautista, filling in for Chito Vera. I love it. I absolutely adore Patchy Mix, 20-1 overall, one of the most dangerous bantamweights in the world, getting his chance to show that. He joins Patricio Pitbull in this exodus to the UFC. Aaron Pico will be debuting in the UFC later this year. So it seems like this last big guard for Bellator is finally making their way to the backyard of a place that many wanted to see them in months ago, years ago, right? But with PFL, that unfortunately has caused criticism, right? People love to talk about the contracts being held, all of these issues, the fighters not getting fights. And I have really tried to give PFL the benefit of the doubt, give them all the slack in the world. But sometimes it's difficult to find answers and justifications. But instead of focusing on the negative, I think it's important to just celebrate the positive. And that is, of course, Patchy Mix getting the chance to show that he is a top 10 fighter in the world against Mario Bautista, right? Prove what many believe. And he's played this pretty well. I mean, his whole narrative is, I'm coming here to give justice to Jose Aldo. I think that's going to resonate with the fans. I think it's going to make a fun fight. And I'm just happy to see Patchy Mix inside the UFC. Well, we've got some more stuff coming at you on Combat Zone. Some KOs from the world of combat sports that you might not have seen. Well, guess what? Now you have. finishes from the world of combat sports. If you want to catch more of them, make sure you check out the stadium schedule. We got a lot left here on Combat Zone. We'll see you in just a second. Still here with the BKFC heavyweight champion, Ben Rothwell, giving some thoughts on a potential $25 million tournament. Let's take it back to the big man. I know, talking about the future, there was a $25 million tournament that was proposed. Obviously, that's planned. You had joked about maybe participating.
Not joked. If it was going down, I'm in. I was in. I felt like it kind of came and went.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the things that needed to happen didn't happen, but that definitely died down. And I from what the best that I feel and see, I don't think it's happening.
But in the event that it comes up, Ben Rothwell punching the ticket. I love it.
Yeah.
What is on the horizon BKFC related that gets you most excited? Because there's such a great slate of events coming. There's a Texas debut celebrating that being approved by the commission. There's a big event in Birmingham. Obviously, BKFC 78, that's headlined by the heavyweights, Leo Perdomo and Arnold Adams. What's getting you most excited for the next few months?
The opportunity to have a title defense in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
We're right on the verge of having it legalized in Wisconsin. The BKFC is just actively every day trying to get this thing approved in all 50 states. They've had some major wins with Texas now, obviously California. So there's been some big leeway on that. And Wisconsin's like pretty much on board. They want a guaranteed event, you know, to come to Wisconsin to kind of seal the deal. And hey, I think, you know, from everything I know, yeah, BKFC's in. It's just a matter of like getting a date, getting it all figured out. So that's what I was saying. Maybe that end of the year, you know, maybe something happens. So for me, that would be the most awesome thing is the headline right here in Wisconsin. That would be quite the cherry on top.
When was the last time you got to compete in Wisconsin?
Good question. When I fought, it was a UFC. I don't remember the number. And I beat up Brandon Vera.
There you go. I love it. What is it that you think some UFC fans or mixed martial arts fans, they haven't subscribed to the BKFC philosophy? They haven't really maybe adopted an interest in bare knuckle or have a negative perception of it. Why do you think that is?
People are just funny. They're very tribal. It's our nature since the existence of the human, you know, species. Like, we get behind stuff. Like I said, when I came in, the BKFC fans are like, no, like, we're bare knuckle people. Like, we don't want none of these UFC guys. Like it's crazy like that. Like, I had to like win them over, you know, even though I'm like been doing this for 25 years, like I had to prove myself all over again. And that's fine. It's fun. They give me like another challenge to try to work it over. I think there's like hardcore UFC fans. They're not watching boxing. They're not watching anything. You know, they're like, they'd have it tattooed on them. Like they're like, even though it's getting, and this is what I've noticed, and it's sad, is the grappling. The fighters are actually getting so good. The fights are becoming more boring because they're more technical. And hardcore jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? They like it. Like, they see what's going on. But your average person,
that doesn't train, they won't know.
A group of women, like women, you bring a woman to a watch party, are falling asleep, leaving halfway through. They're not interested.
Yeah.
And the BKFC is like the ultimate ADH like fan base. Like, it's fast, it's quick. It's people that don't know fighting know what a knockout is.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting to this from my fights from my cards. The card that I fought on January 25th had some crazy knockouts. The whole card was exciting. And I got told, like, at these watch parties, like, women were watching till the main event. Like, they were into it. They were watching it. Like, you know, obviously my fight really helped. And that's awesome to hear. Like, we're creating new fans, people that don't really understand fighting. They understand bare knuckle. They understand what we're doing. And it sounds so whatever to people, like, oh, bare knuckle. And I'm like, if you give me a second to explain, let me tell you, like, bare knuckle sounds brutal, but you know, in MMA, I could get head kicked, elbowed, kneed, you know, dropped on my arm wrong, have broken limbs. And when I explain it, people are like, oh man, that is sound pretty violent. I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, it's combat sports. It's inherently violent and dangerous, and there's a thing to it.
Do
But
you get deja vu? Because I think people had the same opinions on MMA back in the day, at the
yes,
beginning. Right. So you're like, okay, I'm having the same conversations 25 years apart now.
yeah, it's going through the same things. And then what it happens is I get people to a live event, and it was
Mm.
cool in Salt Lake just this last weekend. A lot of people, it was their first live event, and there's about 8,000 people, so it wasn't hard for me to circulate around the arena. Like I was kind of going around all over the place, but I got to run into some of these people at the end of the event, and obviously I always ask, "What'd you think?" And they're just like, "Oh my god!" They're like, "This is so awesome," and I can't wait to see another one. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it." I'm like, seeing the live event really wins people over. Because they see the guys get, the men and women, they see them get back up. They see that we're
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, we get bloody. You see cuts, and then one of the bucked up brothers, the younger brother, competed, and he
Mhm.
lost. Unfortunately, a lot of people were sad, and he had some pretty gnarly cuts. Well, before the main event was over, he came back from the hospital. He was all stitched up. He was fine.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, and like people are like, "Oh, wait, he's all right." I'm like, "Yeah, he is. He's all right. He's fine. Like that stuff's gonna heal in a couple of weeks, and he's got some cool war wounds, and he's
yeah,
out here talking to everybody." And I'm like, and that was like one of the worst fight. You know what I mean? The bloodiest whatever fight. I mean, he's fine. So I think,
exactly.
and people are like, "Oh, okay, like it's not so bad." Like, yeah, and MMA, man, when you land from a takedown wrong, and your arm goes out the wrong way, or your kneecaps blow out, like those are career-ending injuries. You know what I mean? Like MMA is super freaking dangerous for the
Yeah.
athletes. So
So cuts on the face, that's superficial,
yeah,
like you
it
said.
really
That'll heal.
is. You know,
Do you see a world in which BKFC could potentially overtake UFC in popularity or engagement within the combat sports world?
I mean, we're this is I don't it can't help it always gets put in that like I
Yeah.
like to say we're different. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, hey, there's boxing, there's MMA, and there's bare knuckle. Like we're our own thing, but we're constantly getting compared to the UFC, constantly getting compared to who's number one, number two. And I'm like, I'm funny is, we're getting compared over PFL, and I'm like, we're not even MMA. I'm like, why aren't you competing with the boxing organizations? And I think it's a good thing. Like, hey, like we've made so much noise that people are making that comparison. But I always try. I think David Feldman, the BKFC, they don't want to. They're not in this. They're not trying to sound like David Dodd and like say all this
Yeah.
crazy shit. They're like, hey, man, UFC is a tyrant. They're massive. They're $20 billion company. We're just doing our thing. They're
Apples and
awesome.
oranges. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just here doing our thing. Like we don't want to compare. And it's like I think that's an awesome way to look at it. But I just told you, like, when it really comes down to the excitement factor, our sport's only going to continue to get more exciting the better guys get. And in MMA, unfortunately, it's getting more boring the better guys are getting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, people want knockouts in the UFC. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, some of the biggest stars are the ones that come out and give knockout. But then a good wrestler messes all of that up. Well, there is no good wrestlers that are going to mess that up in BKFC. Like it's on the feet, it's giving people what they want. And the difference is boxing, the gloves do, even if they're 10 ounces, they still take a lot of
The
the
impact of the
possibility for
glove. Yeah.
knockouts and action and all they do. Like, yeah, you can still see a quick knockout, but look at the numbers in the last 5 years. Dude, we're having so many finishes. And
Yeah.
like as an average Joe watching, that's what I want to see. I don't want to see a
Exactly.
decision. I don't want to see guys laying on the ground. I want to see when someone get knocked the out.
Brutal, baby. Just bleed. Of course. Well, let's change gears. I want to talk about life away from the combat sports side of things, and now your gym, man. Talking about you, you recently moved into a bigger space, and I think things are going well. Let us know how that's been going.
Well, I don't just so I opened in 2011, October of
Mhm.
2011, renting like most gyms. And December 26th, I opened my own commercial property. So it's a big deal. Like we own the building, we own the land, and yeah, I have like doubled the size. We have showers, locker rooms. We just had a little place like a lot of gyms do when they start out. Like you got some mats, and people get sweaty and dirty, and they get expected to go home and change at home. And it drove me. I never wanted that, but it's just like
Yeah.
you got to do what you got to do. And now I had an opportunity to build a real locker rooms, give my students and showers and everything like that. So that was a really big thing for me to give. We got 2 mat spaces, and everything's top of the line. I got some really really nice equipment. So and we keep things like you walk into a gym and smell stinking, you smell it, and like that's one thing. Even with our small gym, you walk into our gym every day for the whole year, it smells brand new.
Yeah.
And so now I have like a new place to do that with. So I think people really appreciate that, especially it's the people that have been to other gyms. They're the ones that appreciate my gym the most.
I love it. I love it. Talking about some of the pupils that you got there. I know Cody Lynn obviously is doing tremendous and one of the stars. Who else is up and coming that you are training?
Well, that's funny. You got Cody Lynn. So at least he's made enough noise, or you've heard of Cody Lynn. Uh, Honestly, it's very amateur right now because Cody's been with me since he was young. He came in
Yeah.
at like 10 years old, and been kind of went through taking his time. The kid's just born as a martial artist. He just gets it. He doesn't need to be, constantly yelled at and badgered to do the things he's supposed to do. He just does it. And that's what I need around me right now because I'm still fighting. And I tell guys all the time, I'm not your coach, I'm your brother. Like I'm here to
Mhm.
help you right now, but like I gotta help myself. Like I'm still fighting. So it's hard for me to like be a full-time committed coach. And luckily I got jujitsu coaches and I got guys that are helping and we have stuff, but like you gotta have thick skin to compete around me because how I was brought into this. My first I was 17 years old, and the guy that got me into this wasn't even there to coach me. He didn't corner me. And I tell people it's funny is my first 6 fights was done in 3 nights because I fought in tournaments. So my
Wow.
first 6 fights, yeah. So and these were in Indiana and Ohio, and I live in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So I'm 17 years old, driving 16 hours away for the one 8 hours away with a
Yeah.
21-year-old dude that I met like 6 weeks ago. And my parents are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to a friend's house." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I hear these people now, like grown ass men are like, "You're not gonna corner me," and I'm like, "Dude, you're an amateur and you're fighting in Milwaukee. Like,
Yeah. What do you
you,
expect, dude?
I'm
Yeah.
sending you with like our 4 best guys. They got you, man. Like, no, I can't corner you. Like, I got shit to do. Like, so it's hard for some guys. Like, but then it also helps me shift through who's worth it because so it helps me kind of shift who's got the thick skin because in this dude combat sports is one of the most brutal things you can do,
Yeah.
and one of the first deciding factors is do you mentally have what it takes. You might be a physically gifted athlete, but if you're mentally weak, none of that matters.
Yeah.
You got to have a mentally thick skin to deal with in combat sports.
100%. Do you ever miss the aspects of MMA that obviously in bare knuckle you don't have access to, the kicks or any of the grappling? Is there ever a part of you where you're like, man, I wish I could throw a calf kick right now?
I teach so our biggest program in my gym is kickboxing, which
Mhm.
our striking class because I show Muay Thai where I'm showing elbows and knees, the clinch work, all the kicks. So I'm still actively throwing kicks to demonstrate all every week
Mhm.
for this whole time for 25 years. I've been still doing it. That's a part of me and jujitsu is the other aspect. So in our jujitsu, we're really big on wrestling and jujitsu together. So it's kind of all there. Um, I don't miss the training hard, like intense
Mhm.
with the wrestling and the jujitsu because I was training with guys my size and bigger. And dude is a hard training session. Every time we would hit a hard takedown and we would hit the mats, the whole place would shake and everybody would stop and be like, "Oh my God." And it's like every time that happens, it's like that could be like a career ending injury if we
Yeah.
land wrong. You know what I mean? Just one stupid thing in the middle of a workout and like that could end my career. And I had to do it, I didn't have a choice, but it's good to not have that hanging over my head, like that risk, the amount
Yeah.
of risk in the training to kind of take that away. And the as I'm getting older, the recovery from that stuff, you grapple hard for 1 hour, dude. I'm ruined for like days after now at 43 years old. It's super hard, and only having to focus on boxing. Boxing's like riding a bike for me. I can just do it for
Mhm.
hours. I don't feel sore the next day at all. And like I spar hard. I spar dudes bigger than me right now Golden Gloves and professional boxers. And like I go to war with these dudes and I'm fine. I can do it. So that really, really helped me with my career, rejuvenate my career. Um, so there's that. There's things that I miss. Sure, there's things that I missed because I didn't get to show in MMA. I really, really don't feel like I held back. I held back a lot. I really feel like there was a lot I didn't get to show. Yeah, I submitted Josh Barnett, but I don't think I really got my accolades as a grappler. I don't think I really showed how good a grappling I really was for a big guy. I never really got a really good head kick knockout in the UFC. I had some in my younger part of my career, but like I kicked deceivingly high for how big I am, and I never really got to show that. So there's some regrets, but hey, man, I'm very thankful that I get to continue fighting and show people off, give some knockouts, because if this was 10 years ago, but I was this age, that probably could have been it for me. You know what I mean? If I was like 43 10 years ago, BKFC wasn't around. You know what I mean? There might not have been something for me to flow into. So as I said, the timing of everything is pretty wild.
I love it. Well, Ben, any final message to the BKFC audience ahead of what could be a truly fantastic year for you?
Just exciting to keep going out there and putting out what they love to see. Like I said, I had a great time in Salt Lake City. I just got to go out and hang out with the fans and just letting them always know, man, it's still crazy to me that even there, I was telling people and people could see people were coming up and asking me photos and people would still come up and be like, is it okay? And I'm like, yeah, what do you mean, is it okay? And they're like, oh, I don't want to bother you. And I'm like, dude, and the people are so humble and it makes me laugh. Like I'm happy, I'm excited, but it also makes me hurt. Like, man, who hurt these people that they're so scared? You know what I mean? That
they think that they couldn't come up. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the part that's sad, that people that there's athletes that act like that. I'm like, do you realize that the fans is why we get to do this? Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? So I'm always very humbly just appreciative of the fans, and I always have time for everybody. I do my very best to give everybody their time and hang out with them, and just of course out of the fans, but just to the BKFC in general, man. They're incredible, and I'm very, very excited to be a part of this journey. And I tell David Feldman and his family, man, they changed my life. I owe them forever.
Such a great time chatting with the BKFC heavyweight champion, Ben Rothwell, a true legend of combat sports, the king of Kenosha. So glad to see his career revitalized and finally getting that acceptance from the fan base that he's long been searching for. We'll hopefully check back in with him soon this year, but either way, a lot of action left here on Combat Zone. Folks, welcome back to Combat Zone. For our eagle-eyed bettors out there, I know that Burns versus Morales was a profitable weekend for you. But let's say, hey, you wanted to know what those lines could have been and the profit could have returned for you. So here's a four-leg parlay. Morales by TKO, Myron Santos by decision, Nursultan Ruzaboyev by decision, and Melquizael Costa by decision. That comes out to about plus 28.95 odds. If you slap $10 on it, that would have returned about $300. So don't miss out. If you're looking ahead to next week, I've got a bit of a penny parlay for you, right? So Aaron Blanchfield winning, Ketlin Vieira winning, Ludwig Klein, Ryron Dos Santos, Oban Elliott, Jeremiah Wells, Bruno Lopez, Jordan Levitt, Balahi Oki, Jafel Filio, Zach Reese, and Billy Ray Goff. If you pick all of them, that comes out to about plus 57,669. So $10 will give you just almost $6,000. If you put a penny on it, it gives you $5.78. Bet responsibly. Don't abuse it. Head to the Bally's Sportsbook lines and make some money today. Last segment that we got for you today. It's always fun seeing fighters succeed, but maybe highlighting some tough nights is important as well. Here's a couple look at fighters who it just really wasn't their night. episode to kick things off here for the Combat Zone. Fantastic conversation with BKFC heavyweight kingpin Ben Rothwell. Bit of news in Bellator's herpes and the undefeated fighters getting back on track at Burns versus Morales. And also an update on one young Apache mix coming to the UFC to stake his claim in the top 10 of the bantamweight division. Hope you enjoyed this first episode. We got a lot more coming at you. Make sure you stay tuned next week for more Combat Zone.